re-education camps, and PSYOP missions aimed at activists. So this deals with a document that was recently unearthed and exposed by Prison Planet, which talks about interning civilians. And at the bottom of this document, they talk about the PSYOPs officers, and they mention that the demands of the PSYOPs officers overseeing the detainment camps would be to identify political activists for indoctrination. So they'd be doing that in the camps, but does this mean that these camps would be made specifically for activists? This document, which you can see here, was discussed at length by Madison Rupert in this blog, which he did here. And so he goes into quite a lot of detail about that. Looking at this document, what I could tell you is that it's not concerning only the U.S. Actually, it's military operations document, and they talk about overpopulated third world countries and how they'd have to contain civil unrest and basically take care of anybody who goes against U.S. interests. So to me, it looks like this is mostly for military operations anywhere in the world where the U.S. is involved. And that they're just trying to figure out what to do with civilians, because they already have protocols for what to do with the military and captured military personnel, and also for enemy combatants, that gray area that they've created between an organized, centrally led, uniformed military versus civilians. The enemy combatants are kind of guerrilla warfare gray zone, and they capture them and do whatever they want with them, like stick them in Guantanamo. But they're enemy combatants. What do you do with civilians? Can you just grab civilians and intern them? Well, looks like that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to create the protocol for that. They're dealing with several categories of people. There's protected persons, dislocated civilians, which could be displaced people or refugees who are not nationals, also evacuees, such as during an emergency, and stateless persons. People who've been denationalized. Of course, with the Enemy Expatriation Act, that could now include U.S. citizens who could be stripped of their nationality for engaging in hostilities against the U.S. It also includes, of course, civilian internees. It does talk about the PSYOP officers whose job is to pacify detainees and dislocated civilians with PSYOP products. What kind of products? I don't know, maybe messages on a megaphone, or maybe some kind of poison to keep them placid. Also, to identify political activists in the group, but this is inside the facility, not in the general population. Processing of detainees involves search, silence, segregate, speed, safeguard, and tag. What I found particularly disturbing was the part about silence, that they would go so far as to stuff towels or objects in people's mouths to keep them quiet. And they also mentioned children, keeping them with mothers. So there's going to be children in there too? So this pertains to, I guess, anywhere that the U.S. is pursuing their imperialist motives in any country, but also apparently on U.S. soil, because the DHS, the ICE, and FEMA are involved. So because it's a military document, it all pertains to military procedures, my impression is that this could be done on U.S. soil using possibly FEMA camps under martial law. If there's martial law, and people resist it, protest, anything, like what happens here, what's been happening here with the protests in Quebec, people fighting against the police. Well, if those were the military, then anyone captured during something like that could be interned as a civilian internee. And here's a picture of the facility, and as you see with the 100-person enclosure, including also interrogation rooms and visitation rooms, it really looks something like a concentration camp. On his website, And the Lie, Madison Rupert also wrote this article, Smile, You're a Civilian Internee, where he discusses Army Regulation 190-8 document called Enemy Prisoners of War, Retained Personnel, Civilian Internees, and Other Detainees. And I'd recommend that you read that. He goes into a lot of detail. Some of the things that struck me are, in terms of the treatment of the detainees, that they would have to work for more food. So they're given basic rations, but then if they want more food, which would probably be if they want an adequate amount of food, they'd have to work for it. So that really reminds me of, like, Nazi camps or the Russian Gulag. Also, they would have forced vaccinations, and they would be barred from recreational activities if they engage in any kind of political questioning.
Let me pause right there. I know for a fact here in Florida that if you didn't go to the camp, you passed it on the first trip, London. If you didn't go to the camp, man, they throw another suit on you, another crime. They charge you and actually try you and everything right there. It's all done on video. With really, the only time that you go see a real judge is pretty much when you're doomed during your sentencing. First thing is they hold you 3 days right off the bat, no problem, without even talking to you or anything. That's for fun. I think about it, I got lost track around it. Yeah, they can just take their time with you, get lost in the system. But if you don't do the camp, they'll put it and you lose. You'll go to, you stay in jail. It's just like exactly what she's talking about, right? It is an internment camp. And if you look up these, right here in Florida, it's got one of the largest ones right in the middle of it almost. I can't remember, but she was talking about the government. Places being turned into camps that were like FEMA camps. But right in the middle of Florida, right here, and then it's spread out all over the place. And the system's working here, trust me. They got me. Here she is, I'm sorry.
Also, they get no phone calls in or out, and they get 1 day of rest per week. And prisoners can cooperate and disseminate PSYOP messages and products.
I got 0.
So obviously, this is not just a place for evacuees or displaced persons, but they are really being interned. These are internment camps, prison camps. Another article I think you should read is this one from Prison Planet. Army National Guard advertises for internment specialists. So the posting is no longer there, but I saw it when it was originally up a year or two ago, that the National Guard was advertising for internment resettlement specialists. And well, it's the National Guard, so I guess this would be taking place on American soil. And in this article, they also discussed the Rex 84 camps, Rex 84 program, which was Readiness Exercise 1984. And they say that the exercise anticipated civil disturbances, major demonstrations, and strikes that would affect continuity of government and or resource mobilization. To fight subversive activities, there was authorization for the military to implement government-ordered movements of civilian populations at state and regional levels, to the arrest of certain unidentified segments of population, and the imposition of martial law. So I think this fits in very well with this other document, Restricted U.S. Army Internment and Resettlement Operations Manual, that apparently they are making provisions to be able to intern and detain large amounts of civilians, probably in the context of civil unrest and martial law. And another document that they mention here is the Civilian Inmate Labor Program, which you can see.
That 3 days thing, that was right there. 3 days just to figure out whether or not there was a reason for you to be arrested. And that's no joke. They hold your ass in there for that. And then just come up and figure it out. Well, right off the bat, that's, you know, look, that whole, what is that? You have a right to lawyer and all that horse shit. Throw it out the window. Hey, somebody needs to take a real close look at that. Seriously. I'm pushing 50 years old, and whoa. That's the real world out there.
Here, I'd just like to let you know this is very real. They have this program. So they have 2 kinds of camps, the civilian inmate prison camps and civilian inmate labor camps. The prison camps are on Army installations, and the labor camps, they wouldn't be living on the installations. But this, it's a military document because it deals with the prisoners working on Army installations. But the prisoners would be prisoners of the Department of Corrections, so just regular prisoners, not political prisoners or civilian internees. And so what it basically amounts to is that the prisons are overcrowded, and the military needs a source of slave labor. So this would kind of be mutually beneficial. The prison could lease some facilities on the military installation and house their prisoners there instead of having to build, enlarge their own facilities. And then these prisoners would work for the military for free. The army would only pay for things like their food, transportation, and their equipment. So it's like a cost-saving measure. And the civilian inmate labor camps would be, the prisoners, I think, would be living in the prisons and then just going to work at the military installations and then returning to the prisons. So this isn't like the same thing as FEMA camps. It just seems to be like a way for the military and the prisons to kind of save money and relieve overcrowding. Not that I think this is a good solution, but this seems to be the goal of this program, to create a slave labor force for the military and find a cheaper way for the prisons to house their surplus inmates. So in summary, these documents, these programs are very real, and it does look to me like the U.S. military is making provisions to intern civilians abroad and on U.S. soil, but that on U.S. soil it would probably be under the context of martial law only, because in all of these documents they refer to them as military operations, and you can't deploy the military against its own civilians. You can't deploy the U.S. Army against its own civilians, except for in a case of martial law. Of course, the National Guard internment resettlement officers, well, they're National Guard, so it's not quite the same thing as the military. But it looks like they're trying to do that, and not specifically for activists, but I think anyone who in a situation of social upheaval, civil unrest, acts against the martial law troops that would be put in place. That's what it looks like to me. And I'm not sharing this with you to freak you out. I read all this to try to really understand what's going on. I don't find it reassuring. It's not right that they're going to go out there and just round up activists randomly, but it does look like they're preparing for some kind of major state of civil unrest and martial law, and then they're providing for what to do with all the people who either are evacuated or displaced because of the disaster or the situation, or those who go against the program, what to do with them. And that would be internment camps, looks like it, or what we've been saying all along, FEMA camps. So let me know what you think. And, well, thanks for listening to me, and I'll see you next time.
That is very real here. It's exactly right. The only difference is it's out there on a landfill and all over this place. Whew. Man, nightmare. Sure was. I swear to God. I wanted to escape bad and can't. Well, that's what it is. And somehow or another I found a little piece of heaven out here. And it's working. So we're doing good. Yeah, all our little problems are over with now. I'm hoping it's because inspiration has hit me to create. And, well, I'm doing it outside. My pepper plants haven't died on me, so that means tells me something right there. Hell, I got a little green dog. So I'm gonna do it. And the main goal is food. Maybe a fish or produce. I don't care. I'm gonna make enough off all of it, and I'm gonna just like go nuts. Oh Lordy, Lord, it's coming. Wednesday I'll be out painting. I'll have everything go on Wednesday because I'm going to hit back in that 70-degree weather again. It'll be nice. Yeah. And then I'll tear the tractor down and pull the pan off of it, and we'll get a good look at that thing. I want to swap that around the back. We're to pick the rear end up by itself, the lift the plow and all that. Because that lift is just for the belly mower. And I'm hunting me the whole H3 system for it, so I can go to 3 valves on there instead of just being one. That way I can catch up with you boys up there in the north, y'all got snow blowers and all that kind of cool stuff. And I'm hunting a sickle mower, so see, that's the idea. That's what I wanted, so I can put a sickle mower on the front of that thing. And you see my hedges out there. That would be pretty neat. I could just ride back down through there and just hedge my hedges. Yeah, that would be cool. You'll see the surprise. You got time. Y'all enjoy it. We'll catch you later. Oh, I'll find a whole new subject for us to get off on. I'm just checking what YouTube's letting me watch. That's what it is. That was a couple months, 3 months ago or something like that. October, I think. Yeah. Y'all enjoy. Just wait. You're going to see what I got going on here in a little bit.